3.
Food Bill, third reading.
Honourable Nikki Kay.
I move that the food bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, I am very pleased to stand here and speak on the third reading of the food bill. This bill has been a long time coming. For over 10 years it has been in development, and the passing of this food bill represents a very significant reform of New Zealand's law. We cannot underestimate what this bill means to New Zealand from an economic perspective. We know that there are thousands of people in New Zealand that are employed in the food sector, in fact 18% of our working population. We know that many livelihoods and thousands of businesses rely on our food exports. In fact, more than half of our exports are in food. We also know that there are many overseas visitors who come here and want to experience our food and beverage, and that's why this bill is incredibly important for New Zealand. Given the importance of this bill to the sector in New Zealand, it's important to realise that the broad agreement in the previous debates about the need to replace the 1981 Food Act has been very clear. As has been acknowledged, the prescriptive one-size-fits-all approach of the current regime causes unnecessary costs to food businesses and also fails to ensure that all food safety risks are properly managed. There have been estimates that this bill could reduce compliance costs by over $40 million, and that's a great thing for New Zealand. So the need to move to a more flexible and risk-based approach to food safety was also recognised in last year's report from the inquiry into the whey protein concentrate incident. Most New Zealanders understand that the way that a food safety system works is that when you are exporting hundreds and millions of food products, there will always be error. But what matters is that your food safety system is strong and that you can manage a decent response to that. That's why it was pleasing that the inquiry found that New Zealand's regulatory system for dairy food safety is considered among the best in the world. It did recommend, though, that there were areas where we should strengthen our food safety system. That is why this government is incredibly proud to have developed a number of initiatives, including the progress on the New Zealand Food Safety Centre for Research, but also setting up a New Zealand Food Safety and Assurance Council. We've also moved on recall provisions which are in this bill. The need for new legislation is therefore widely accepted, and this is incredibly positive. I do want to acknowledge that through the passage of the bill of this House, there were concerns, and some of those concerns related to community fundraisers. So what I've been very clear about since I've become Minister is that we need to strike an appropriate balance to achieve good food safety while also ensuring that New Zealanders can get on and do what they've always done, like community sausage sizzles. There are also, of course, some differences between sides of this House in the debate. I want to acknowledge the discussion that we had in terms of country of origin labelling. As I've said, the House of Representatives in Australia are conducting an inquiry in this area. While I do not have the confidence in a comprehensive country of origin mandatory labelling scheme, I think there is more work to do in this area, and I do want to acknowledge that we have about 70% coverage in the area of voluntary country of origin labelling with regard to single ingredient foods. Mr Speaker, the passing of the food bill is not the end of the process of law reform. There is a significant programme of work ahead to ensure that the bill is properly implemented. This will include developing and consulting on a package of regulations and other legislative instruments that will refine the final shape of the regulatory regime. The Ministry for Primary Industries has been working towards the implementation of this bill for some time, as members across this House know. Finally, I would like to close by again acknowledging not only of the importance of this bill to New Zealand from an economic perspective, but also acknowledging that this is a modern, risk-based framework that will reduce compliance costs in New Zealand, but will also enable us to improve our food safety in New Zealand, whether that is through the greater intelligence that will come as a result of our system, whether that is through the on-spot fines that we'll be able to give in areas like labelling. But also there are provisions in this bill that show our compassion as a nation. There are provisions in this bill that enable us to have more companies that are able to donate food in good faith, and I do believe that those provisions, the Good Samaritan clause, will be very helpful for some of the food banks of New Zealand. So the process of reform has spanned 2 administrations. I acknowledge the contributions particularly of the Honourable Annette King and the Honourable Kate Wilkinson. The bill has been considered twice by the Primary Production Committee, and I would really like to thank Shane Ardern in particular for his excellent chairing of this committee, and the opposition members of the committee for their constructive approach. I do want to thank all opposition members for the work that they have done on this bill. I would also like to thank the many officials that have worked over the years on this legislation. I'm not going to name all of them. I recognise that I will leave people out, but can I acknowledge Hilary Eade and Karen Adair, I think Carol Inkster as well, Howard Staveley. I have definitely missed people out, and I apologise at this point. But thank you. I understand the huge work that many public servants do in this country. Sometimes they will never be on the front page of the paper, but they work behind the scenes to do a great job on legislation. I would like to acknowledge as well the many industry groups and other people that contributed to the development of this legislation. It is going to be a great piece of legislation for New Zealand, and after many years of development, Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I am pleased to follow the Minister and acknowledge many of the things